Tiger Woods, one of the greatest golfers of all time, was found in the wreckage of a single automobile accident on the morning of February 23rd. It seemed like, even if just for a second, the entire world stopped as one of the most globally well-known athletes was potentially in danger of losing his life. Now, thank God, Tiger is okay and escaped with only leg injuries as far as we know. But that last qualifier, as far as we know, that's been said a lot today. And so now that we know that Tiger Woods is at least alive, we have to look back at a trend that has really presented itself during this whole situation that puts a black mark on journalism and really hurts the entire concept of information gathering. Let's discuss. I'm only going to give the basic facts right now, what we know about the Tiger Woods case, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But here's what we know for absolute sure. Tiger Woods was in an automobile accident. It was a single car wreck. He went off the road. His car rolled over. He was rescued by LA County police and firefighters. He was taken to the hospital. He has some serious injuries on his leg, but otherwise, he seems to be okay. Certainly not in critical condition or anything like that. Now, there's a lot of other details, but if you've been following this story throughout the day, you'll know that the details seem to change. And here's kind of a brief, let me just tell you what I went through personally when I first heard about the story. So when I first heard about it, it sounded like something like really like Tiger Woods might be dead. Like he might have been killed in this accident. That's what it sounded like. And then I look at alerts from Bleacher Report and ESPN, and they say that the police department, the fire department needed the jaws of life to pull Tiger out of the car, that he was in serious condition. And so you're thinking something really, really bad might be going on here. And then the day goes on, you realize, well, the injuries are mostly to Tiger's leg. And then you learn that no, they didn't actually need the jaws of life. And then the police deputy who's in charge of the situation gives a press conference and he says, well, actually he was awake and lucid when we found him. And now we find out that he's sitting in a hospital bed and he's okay. I mean, other than the leg injuries, which sound terrible, and I'm sorry that happened to him. This is not about making light of something very, very serious that has happened. Quite the opposite. I think what's going on is a very serious issue and should be treated with reverence and respect to Tiger and his family. Here's the problem. In the race to be first, all of these media outlets will sacrifice accuracy for quickness. When we first saw reports, almost every single thing in the initial reports was wrong. Almost everything. And the problem is that because news gets circulated so quickly around the internet, around cable news, around sports talk and all this kind of stuff, all of these hosts, radio hosts, talk show hosts, all this kind of stuff, they have nothing to work with but the initial reports, and they have to talk about it. So you get situations like Scott Van Pelt going on ESPN and saying, I heard a report and I was worried that Tiger was gone. And, you know, it's one of those things where if you hear that, it would be so much better if we had just started with the report that came out in the afternoon. In the afternoon, after Tiger had gone through surgery, after all that stuff had happened, the report came out that it was a serious car accident, but Tiger was lucid, he was awake, he was okay. They didn't need the jaws of life or anything. They pulled him out through the windshield. He was talking to people. They rushed him into surgery for his leg. He has a few leg injuries, and he's come out of surgery okay, and now he's on the road to recovery. If that was the initial report we had gotten, then I think we'd all be in a better place. We wouldn't have had to spend half the day worrying that Tiger Woods was dead. This same kind of thing happened with the Kobe Bryant situation. If you remember, there were initial reports that Kobe's entire family was on the helicopter that Kobe was on that crashed when he passed away. And now tragically, it was only his one daughter. But originally we had been led to believe that there was like a dozen people on that helicopter. Kobe's entire family was dead. It took a long time to know whether or not that was true. I mean, it took a long time to even know whether or not the news of Kobe's passing was even true. The problem here, as I say, is that when you sacrifice accuracy for speed, this is what you get. You get lots and lots of false reports. And whoever is first, that's the baseline that other news outlets have to use. So whoever was first on scene to find out this Tiger Woods situation, I think it was ABC in LA, I could be wrong about that, but I think that's who it was. If they got something wrong, everyone else is looking at their report and making all of these news aggregation websites using it. Bleacher Report a lot of times will just link to other places that have stories. Bleacher Report is a news aggregator. So they'll link to another story. And if that story's wrong, then not only does everyone who saw the original story, but everyone who saw Bleacher Report link to that story now has seen an inaccurate story. It's a problem. Let me just give you an example. When you look at, for example, the original report that Tiger Woods needed the jaws of life to get out of the car. Now, a lot of people, myself included, don't even really know what the jaws of life are. I had to look it up. Now, in reality, the jaws of life is just a hydraulic press that allows firefighters to open the door of a car that has been crushed shut, that you can't physically open. And usually it means that there's been a very serious wreck. That was the initial report, that they needed the jaws of life to get Tiger. A couple hours later comes out, no, they just used an axe to break the windshield and pulled him out, and then put him on a backboard, and that was it. Where if you had just read the initial report and nothing else, you'd be thinking, oh my God, they had to pull Tiger Woods through the charred remains of his own vehicle. And when you look at the vehicle, obviously, I mean, it's totaled. I mean, you're not gonna be driving that again. None of this is making light of the situation. It's just pointing out that what we heard at the beginning was so far removed from what the actual situation is, and it's a big disservice to Tiger Woods and his family. Because what about his friends? I mean, what about people who can't talk to him very quickly? I mean, I don't think he's answering his phone while he's in surgery. What about people like that? They're seeing these reports and they have no idea what's going on. And even people who are big fans of Tiger Woods, they're seeing these reports and they have no idea what's going on. I mean, just search right now. Search Tiger Woods online right now. And what are you going to see? You're going to see so many different headlines. You're going to see headlines that have almost nothing to do with each other. I mean, you have headlines about where he was going. You have TMZ reporting Tiger Woods is badly injured in car crash. And then, of course, seen speeding from hotel minutes before accident. I mean, that's not necessary at all, TMZ, but we've come to expect that from them. You have CBS Sports reporting Tiger Woods seriously injured in car crash and he's lucky to be alive. Well, I don't know where that quote's from, but when you listen to the police deputy press conference right after he was able to talk to the media, the report was that Tiger is injured, but he's okay. And CNN is basically reporting that Tiger Woods injured in car crash, and he's injured in a single vehicle rollover in California, according to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. What I'm saying is we have all of these different reports, all of these different headlines, all of these different, reporters saying different things. And it's almost impossible to just figure out what it is that happened to Tiger Woods. And that's a problem. When you look at these places, whether it's CNN or Fox News, because Tiger's a huge deal, so it's not just the sports world that's talking about this. But when you look at, I'm going to use CNN as an example just because they were the first one that popped up when I was looking for video of this. You have the segment starting off with Wolf Blitzer talking about how Tiger is lucky to be alive. And that's the part that you see. If you're just looking at that video, you see the first 30 seconds, that's what you see. And then the next 2.5 minutes is their chief medical correspondent talking about how Tiger was okay and talking about how there wasn't excessive bleeding, there wasn't any head trauma, he was okay, he was lucid, he was all this kind of stuff, that he was lucky to get out of it with injuries as minor as they were, even though it required surgery. It could have been a lot worse. But you would know that if you were just scrolling headlines and watching the first 15 seconds of video clips. That's the problem, because these places give up accuracy and they replace it with speed. When you look at news before social media, when all you had was newspapers, if something like this happened at 7 or 8 in the morning, like it did in this situation, you have the entire day as a newspaper to gather the facts, do your reporting, write the story, turn it in, have it edited, and then it will go to presses, and then people will find out the next day. But in that time, you'll do your initial reports, and then you'll hear another press conference and you'll change it, and then you'll hear more reports and you'll change it, and then an editor will hear something and they'll change something. And so by the time it gets to press, it's probably been changed a whole lot, and it's the most accurate it can possibly be, because you're not worried about speed. You're worried about the fact that if you put something inaccurate out there, there's no way to take it back. Well, the problem is in today's society with social media, it's the same principle. If you put something inaccurate, there's no way you can take it back, because the people will see the initial story, and retractions or corrections or something like that, it won't get the same amount of play as the original story. But now there isn't that level of filter that goes into it. These places, these reporters, they just tweet out information that they hear. They don't have the time to verify it. They don't have all day to have it checked or to hear some new breaking developments. They just tweet out whatever it is they hear. So some reporter hears jaws of life from a firefighter, and that's what they tweet out, and that gets disseminated all over the world for people looking for information on this story. And because of that, because reporters are so desperate to find the information first, they will go to anyone. So they'll go to as someone who has been a journalist, what happens is, if there is a crime, or if there is any kind of situation where the police are involved, the police have someone whose job it is to just deal with the media, their information officer. Their only job is to deal with the media. And so everything that officers say, every detail of any case, that gets given to the information officer, and that's who will talk to the media. So there's only one person. So the communication is one person, and there's no way for anything to get miscommunicated, because it's only one person who's talking, and other officers won't talk to you. They'll direct you straight to the information person. Well, in today, because reporters are so desperate to find those stories, they'll talk to anyone. So someone maybe talked to a firefighter, and the firefighter hadn't talked to an information officer or whatever, and so the firefighter just says something about jaws of life, and that gets disseminated all over the world. Reporters don't have the time anymore to wait for the official words of a police department or of a fire department. They don't have time, because let's say it's ABC LA. They want that story first, because they know that all of these news aggregation websites will link to their own story. It'll drive up their traffic. It'll make them more money. Not only are reporters' goals to be first, not to be accurate, but to be first, but that's actually incentivized. Speed is now more important than accuracy these days. It doesn't matter whether your report's accurate or not. The only question is, are you first? And that's a problem. So for any of you watching this video, understand that when you see any headline about a breaking news story, understand that what you may very well be looking at is not accurate. Don't just talk about it as if that's fact. If you are going to discuss it with friends or family or whatever, then make sure you caveat it with the fact that we don't know if this is true. This is what this place has reported. There has to be some accountability. If ESPN reports something wrong, everyone should know that ESPN reported it wrong, and there's some level of accountability. That's how, in today's day and age, we can go from a place where speed is far more important than accuracy to a point where you're accountable for everything you say. And so speed is important, as it always is, but accuracy is paramount, because if you report something wrong, you'll be held accountable. That's the place where we need to be. So if you read a headline, understand that might be inaccurate. Figure out where it's going, where it's linking to, and hold these people accountable. Hold reporters accountable if they report something that's incorrect just because they wanted to be first. It doesn't do anyone any good when stories like this are reported inaccurately, and there's lots and lots of inaccuracies floating out there. It doesn't do anyone any good. All it can do is put us in a place where no one knows what's going on, and everyone is asking questions, and no one has any time to figure out the real answer. I'll give you one last example. Today, I have spoken to a grand total of 5 different people that I've actually spoken to. In each conversation, we've talked about this story because it's a huge story. 5 different conversations, 5 different people have heard 5 different things about the accident, about the condition of Tiger Woods. That really is a problem. So make sure you hold these places accountable and make sure that you know that if you read a headline, it might not be accurate. Do some critical thinking. Do a little bit of work yourself. And if you don't have the time or the interest to do it, at least when you talk about it, call out the fact that it's early and it may very well be wrong. Folks, thank you so much again for joining us here on GA Sports. If you disagree with me at all about anything I've just said, you want to have a conversation, bring it down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I love doing that. Thank you so much. Subscribe. We appreciate you.